Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to week 3 as we take a look at what we get to accomplish in the coming days. This week we had Monday off for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Hopefully, you guys had a great day of rest and reflection. And now we are moving on to some fabulous poetry this week. So we're in for a treat. We get to read the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock today. It is a longer piece of poetry that's broken up into some pretty distinctive stanzas and sections. So pay attention to how this poem is organized and the different ways in which the speaker in the poem is using metaphors and similes to try and get us engaged in his emotional journey. The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock is one of my favorite poems, but that doesn't mean it has to be one of yours. What I enjoy so much about this poem is there's a lot of humor in the way that the poet uses metaphors and similes. So kind of look for that. There's some sarcasm, there's some tongue in cheek, kind of like making fun of love and the whole like love poem experience. So some of it is serious, but some of it is actually really funny. So check that out. It's quite awesome. And we have some proof rock homework I'll talk about in a second. And then we get to read William Carlos Williams on Thursday. This is just to say another one of my favorite poems. You would never imagine that I've picked some of my favorites for you guys to read, right? Shocking. So this is just to say I'll talk about in the recorded lecture on William Carlos Williams, but it is the snarkiest poem I've ever read. It's basically William Carlos Williams saying, "Hey, I'm doing whatever I want to and suck it." So it's kind of a funny poem also. So please check that one out. And then Landscape with the Fall of Icarus is a very kind of metacognitive sort of poem because the landscape with the fall of Icarus is a very famous painting, and the painting is based on a famous Greek myth, and so it's a poem based on a painting based on a myth. So we've got this very interesting trajectory of what's happening in this story. And so you kind of have to know the myth, you kind of have to have at least seen the painting, and then the poem makes a lot more sense. So as we talk about the poem, uh, and there's some resources available in the modules tab, make sure you look up the painting, which is very interesting, and then the myth as well. You can just look it up on Wikipedia. But in very brief, Icarus was the son of a very famous inventor, according to mythology, and that inventor had been imprisoned, and so he created wings for himself and his son so that they could escape their imprisonment. And the only thing he told his son was, "The wings are made of feathers and wax, so don't fly too close to the sun, because what happens to wax when it gets hot? It melts, right?" So, Icarus, being probably a teenage boy, uh, flew too close to the sun because he's like, "Freedom, I'm flying, it's amazing." And he goes too close to the sun. And wax melts on his wings and he plunges into the sea and dies. So, yay for Greek mythology. Almost all of Greek myths end with the main characters dying. If you're unfamiliar with the mythology, it's very depressing. So that's the story of Icarus. The painting, which is so famous, is a painting of a sky. You don't realize what's happening until you look very closely at the details and you see that there is a person falling into the ocean. Um, so, famous painting, famous mythology, famous poem. And if for my comic book nerds, you watch the Eternals, there is a character named Icarus in that movie. Great movie. It's on Disney Plus now. So if you want to watch it, it's fun. But the character of Icarus in the Marvel movie has a lot of parallels to Icarus in the myth, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but like there's some parallels, so check that out. It's fun. And then we are going to read Ezra Pound, who is super fun. He's a little, okay, he's not as much fun, but he has a lot of great things to say. To Whistler, American, is another poem that references a famous piece of art. Whistler's Mother is the famous piece of art. I'll link that in the modules as well, so you can check out that art. Once again, poem inspired by that. A packed, really impactful poem. And then In a Station at the Metro is probably one of Ezra Pound's most famous pieces, so pay attention to that one as well as we round out our reading this week. So lots of good stuff coming our way. If we take a look at the Proofrock homework, you can tell it's a fun poem because the prompt starts with, how crazy is this poem? Because it is. It's like the guy has ADD and is trying to explain something but keeps getting distracted. And so he's like halfway through a thought, and then we move on to another thought, and then we go to another one, and then we come up with this crazy metaphor, and then we go to something else. And it's very train of thought, stream of consciousness kind of feel to it, which can be terribly enjoyable if you kind of get yourself into the author's head and you're like, I know how his brain works now. It's cool. So we are doing another reading guide, just like we did with Trifles. This is designed to help you understand the piece more, get all the little treasures out of it. So fill out the reading guide, and after you've read the poem, gone through the reading guide, I want you to write a paragraph explaining about the speaker, whoever you decide that is, how he feels about other people. He's got a lot of feelings about other people, so this should be fun for you to dig into. And then quote some lines from the poem and explain them for me to support your claim. So the speaker of the poem loves other people. I can prove it because I'm using these quotes from the poem. Here's how I understand that as a representation of love. Or the speaker in the poem is totally afraid of people. And here are poem lines that support that, and here is why I understand this to be true. So your paragraph should begin by introducing the poem's title in a sample sentence like this. And then we are going to add those lead-ins for our quotes as well. And we want to make sure that we are saying what lines these poetry pieces come from, because as much as I love this poem, I don't have it entirely memorized. So it helps me to see the lines so I can look them up, find their context, and make sure that they're making sense along with your analysis. And then this is just a note on format. You're going to upload that excellent document. We are shooting for uh, a well-written piece. So I know folks are always asking for like a word count, which is hard to say sometimes because if it's well written, I would say minimum of like 350 words on this. Um, More would be better. Probably 350 to 500 words would be about appropriate on this. So do make sure to kind of dig in and get that depth and detail so that we can really appreciate and understand what we're reading in J. Alfred Prufrock's love song, because T.S. Eliot did a great job writing it. So make sure you check that out. As always, our modules have all kinds of goodies in them. So you're going to go into the Modernism folder, and then we've got William Carlos Williams' lecture here, and you're going to be reading about him on Thursday. So make sure to check out that William Carlos Williams lecture. Lots of fun to be had there. As always, if you have any questions, reach out. I'm here to help. Have fun reading this week, guys.